There's a couple of things that happen by 2030, just so you know, right? 2030 is a really important number in my Institute for Global Futures, our forecasting. Why? Because a number of different things line up in terms of forecast. 2030 is important for 2 or 3 reasons. One is, by that point, healthcare is completely unsustainable. Well before that, right? 5, 8 years before that. Also, 2030, the other key drag on the economy and drag on corporate profits is what? Energy. Not enough energy in the world to be able to keep pace with GDP growth past around 2030. Also, population, the carrying capacity of the planet in terms of feed itself and clean water, all those issues become much more prevalent in 2030. So that's an important era. Now, the good news is, and part of my mission as a future is to get you ready for all that, to say, okay, this is coming. Pay attention. Let's get ready. Why? Because I'm an optimist. I believe with information and forecast, what? That we can lick this stuff, that we can get on top of this stuff, that we can have the strategies and the capital. I mean, I came out of Silicon Valley, so I was at Apple. We knew we were creating a revolution. When I went to Apple, they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, who's in charge of healthcare and medicine? They said, what? There's nobody. I said, okay, I just finished doing that in Washington. Let's focus on that here. I gave the first computers to NIH, first personal computers, to do research using Macs. Try to understand. I remember talking to the AMA, American Medical Association, say, hey, listen, my view is, and our view at Apple is that technology is going to be a key driver of better patient outcomes and care and all that. And in 1984, they really thought I was smoking something and inhaling it, let me tell you. Personal computers, why would doctors want to have that? What's that about? So we all need to get ready for radical innovation. It's coming. It's going to change the game. You think about the changes in the past, not even, 15 to 18, 20 months, right? Craig Venter brought us the, mapping of the DNA, went ahead and gave us the first artificial cell this past year, okay? Changes we talked about in terms of the use of MRI, telerobotics. Wake Forest is doing exciting work on replication and printing of, design of, using stem cells for entirely new organs. Again, 90,000 Americans need organs they can't get and die because of it. Could be one of your loved ones, could be you. Now, let me put this all together. What does this really mean? We're at the edge of an important and exciting revolution around technology and healthcare. Why? For the first time, we'll have a predictive ability to be able to understand what are the key drivers, the precursors that are personalized for you, and you, all of us. And the implications might be you'd have then a map looking forward for what kind of diseases you might, and what the percentages you might incur through better diagnostics that are emerging now, but also you might be able to create a plan. You might change your diet. If you knew you were carrying a gene for diabetes, you might start to think differently about those extra 15 to 20 pounds. You might think differently about your diet. You might think differently about your exercise. You might think differently about your wellness. Now imagine a corporation that has the ability to look out over the 100,000 or 50,000 folks that they've got and be able to come up with a corporate map that would be a predictive look at where the risk factors with populations are and what to do about that. Imagine being able to actually map that and then tie that to particular treatment plans and share that. Well, we don't have that. We have the data and we have much of that technology today. We don't apply it today. I know there's HIPAA and other issues that are associated with it, but we don't apply it and we don't encourage it. That's where we're going. There are 5 game-changing technologies in this innovation section I just want to bring to your attention that are critical to the future of not just healthcare, but every part of the world in terms of industry, business, culture, communications, society. And they are biotechnology, certainly, the manipulation of life forms, if you will. Certainly what's next for computers and networks, mobile internet, certainly the explosion of the internet, the data tsunami, the exabyte future that's coming. Neurotechnology, you talked a little bit about that, learning, understanding the brain and how the brain impacts us. This is the era of the brain right now from the American Association of Advancement of Science. Nanotechnology, manipulation of matter at the atomic level. You're going to see a lot of new innovations come from nanotechnology, very small, 100,000 times smaller than the tip of a human hair devices even, and certainly than quantum technology. Not even 72 hours ago, a big breakthrough in quantum technology at IBM, for instance, creating the first kinds of elements of a computer that stabilizes in a scalable, reliable way qubits, which are just another form of computing that's vastly more powerful than what we have today. The combination of all of these, bits, atoms, neurons, and genes, the combination of these technologies will completely transform the next 100 years. Email me after that, I'll be glad to tell you what's next, but only for the next 100 years, okay? If you want to know after that, I can't tell you. All right. So the extreme future of hacking life, again, having an artificial cell, having the ability to replicate organs, you're talking about a very different kind of healthcare system that's predicated on this. Very different. The ability to hack matter, now you're talking about, turning on and off genes, but also understanding the fundamental genomics of genes. You might be able to also redesign genes and medicines that are based on personalized genomic signatures. And then develop Medtronics, for instance. A number of companies now are focusing on devices that are at the nanoscale so that they'll dispatch drugs and at the nanoscale and be able to dispatch also procedures and wirelessly communicate with a doctor. And this is not unlike what we're doing in terms of hacking the planet, too. This future of data tsunami, again, the big issues here, the biggest force that's driving genomics, proteomics, which is really all about biotech, and when you're talking about pharmacology, where drugs are going next, personalized, where devices are going next, personalized, it's all about how you manage the data. Health informatics, bioinformatics, they're fancy words for just big data. And increasingly, you can't get there unless you're using cloud computing. So just to understand, we are the beneficiaries of a very exciting era. Our health and longevity is going to be dramatically impacted, more so than at any time in any civilization, in a positive way. And it's going to come from the ability to manage this data in entirely new ways. Cloud computing and big data analytics, you're going to hear a lot about that, because there is no way to be able to take everybody's genome in here, which is a couple of terabytes, and store it, analyze it, extract from it what the meaning of it is, so we can go ahead and then turn that into personalized pharmaceuticals. Internet is part of that and a critical part of that. And certainly the communications, the ability to collaborate between folks and to have new devices such as the iPad, the implications of linking up all these devices and these platforms is creating a new kind of research and collaborative environment that's very exciting. And it's producing a lot of new results. Why? Because it's the managing of this data, the extraction of this data, that's giving us the ability to be able to understand where disease begins. And the modeling and creating of drugs today is basically is predicated on simulations, computer-based models, and collaborations. You're going to hear a lot more about the Internet of Things. It's going to have a big impact. The connectivity of devices, a chip in everything, an IP address on everything, your clothing, things that you wear, certainly in a hospital, certainly between the hospital and you. In fact, the hospital is going to go away as we know it. You're going to have a lot more connectivity. Wireless connectivity is going to enable us to be able to manage people's health status and their diseases, if you will, outside of the hospital environment, which is going to become very cost effective. Particularly as people age, they want to be connected, but they want to be either in their own home or in a residential area. You're going to have lots of devices that are designed for that. Now, I talked earlier about Health 2.0, health enhancement, which is about the use of therapeutics, augmentation, and evolutionary design. I'm not going to get into all this right now, but I just want to say this. Look, we're learning to replicate organs that are dysfunctional. There have been tremendous changes in artificial retinas this past year, tremendous changes in new surgery approaches, Leonardo, new telorobotics applied to be able to give people better chances for a longer life, but also new organs and new systems. This personalized medicine drivers, there's three important critical pieces to it: prediction, promotion, and prevention. We don't want to, here's the big idea, okay? Look, this is not about disease management. We got to manage diabetes. We got to manage cardiovascular. How about prevent it? How about stop it from occurring? How about stopping it before it shows up? At the genomic level, turning on and off signaling in the cells, we are learning and will learn to do that, I would forecast. But also being able to change, again, there's just so much you can do with pharmacology, devices, regeneration, where you need to grow a new organ using stem cells. It's not going to take the place. You're not going to take a pill and take a place for exercise, nutrition, better lifestyle changes. It's just not going to, it's not going to be there fast enough. Will we eventually have a pill, a device, a treatment like hyperbolics to be able to manage, make your stomach smaller with a device to be able to keep, yes, we will have all, but devices, drugs, and all of this eventually over this next, certainly half a decade, is going to be very critically important. We will have them to augment them. But while we're on the way, guess what? You're still going to need to address the behavioral lifestyle factors that we know get results now. You want to lose an extra, for every 10 pounds you lose, you get 10 years. You bring down your cholesterol, your blood pressure, you live longer. Now, as I said earlier, the most important strategic asset a corporation has is their people, their talent. The biggest drag on and risk factor associated with that asset, human capital, is their health status. These tools are just going to enable us to do this, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to enroll people differently. We're going to have to enroll them so they understand they got to be part of the solution, not just the problem where it's optional and maybe we'll reward you, in terms of insurance if you don't smoke. Like the good driving policy, like if you don't, take your Chevy off the road, and you don't go off a bridge or something, well, you'll have a preferred insurance. That's great. How about something a little more serious? How about having standards of care, best practices, wellness excellence tied to promotion, advancement, hiring, retention, bonuses? Because if we don't do that, if we don't have a massive business process transformation applied where we bake wellness into the culture of the organization, guess what? It's over. And guess whose butt's on the line? Unless you're a CEO or chairman of your company that's here and you got it, you're going to have to go in front of the board or the C-level and you're going to have to explain why you are throwing out all this money on health care, of which a third of it to two-thirds could be saved over the next 5 to 10 years if we were to get really serious about this. So I'm here just to tell you the truth. That will occur. There will be people that will lose their jobs because they didn't have the courage to stand up against this. They didn't have the courage to walk into the CEO and say, hey, here's the deal. While we're in the midst of the most massive innovation revolution occurring, genomics, predictive understandings about what's next with health, e-health, apps on the iPhone, this is great, wow. Social networking applied to personalized medicine, this is great. Guess what? There's something we can do right now that will save millions and millions of dollars, particularly because you're up against what? That fast-moving bullet train is the aging and depopulation. And y'all know right now we can't find enough talent right now, which has been going on for the better part of a half a decade. We can't find the skilled, knowledge-driven, innovation talent today, which is really the dirty little secret about outsourcing. So what are we going to do? Compromise that population? Or we're going to do something different about changing their health status? We're going to manage that disease? Or manage the diseases? Or we're going to enable them to transform the conversation around it? What does your health future look like? Where are you today? What are you at risk for? What are the biggest risk factors you have going on today? And then take a look at that as a risk factor analysis for your population. Let's break this down. So this came out of a study with the American Association of Advancement of Science that I was part of, and we took a look at, I was asked, what does the future look like for emerging personalized medicine? Now, in this conference, in this study, it was very interesting. I was the only guy that modeled out the future of personalized medicine and put in there wellness management. I had all these academics and theoreticians said, wellness? That doesn't belong in there. After all, we've got all this cool stuff. You know, customized pharma, synthetic biology, consumer genomics. Wow, that's great. What is wellness doing in there? I said, did you really think we were just going to go ahead and transform medicine without transforming the medical model? Did you really think that that's what all this was about? Can you really think we can actually get to personalized medicine, which is personalized therapies and devices and treatment programs that will, of course, enhance the outcomes? Things like, you know, the Institute of Medicine says we're killing 100,000 people a year because they get the wrong drugs, or they're writing on paper that we can't understand, or they make mistakes because of bad safety and efficacy because we're not using enough systems. And that if we apply digital health, not only moving, you know, bits versus paper, we'll save billions. I actually have the number. We're only going to save about $300 billion in the current $2 trillion plus, only about that. I want to just point out to you that all of this is great. All of this, personalized pharma, personalized fitness, reprogramming the disease, this is all just part of it. Ultimately, what we're talking about is an integrated, let me go back to this and finish here, an integrative, patient-centric wellness strategy, not just that it serves the corporation and it's accountable, cost-effective, but let me summarize and say this. If talent is your most important asset, protect it with innovation, protect it with tying health and wellness outcomes to financial incentives and career. If people are your most important asset and you're ready for what's next in terms of healthcare and the role of your organization, create your own map, your strategic map of moving forward. It's either got red risk factors all over it, and it looks like one of our geo maps, or it looks like you're ready, you're future ready. And that's the big challenge. It's going to take courage. You are the leaders in this room that get to be the architects of the future sustainability and competitive advantage of your corporation, not just the health status of your population, of your employees. And I know you can meet this challenge. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Canton.